Pearly was one of the decks hit the very hardest on the ban list, almost completely slaughtering the deck. But can we fix it somehow with the Chaos Angel package? Let me explain. If you still need a beautiful playmat, check out this one. And if you still need a beautiful deck box, check out this one. Very excited for it. You can go to zerodamagegaming.com and use the code SOLEMN for a discount. I basically added some spice. I don't know if other people have been doing this. I haven't seen it before, so it might be a new thing. Of course, it is still a work in progress, but I think it's still pretty interesting to consider. So for the Pearly cards, I won't spend too much time on the obvious ones. We are playing triple Pearly because it's the main boss. We have triple Purrely. I do think it's still very important to be able to search specific stuff. And people say like, oh, but you can draw too many. And while sometimes that's a problem, I still think it's more important to have that endless follow-up and to hard draw maybe one of these. Worst case, you can always discard them anyway. This is one of the few decks that can really get away with like bricks and stuff because everything is a discard outlet. Then we have triple My Friend, of course. Honestly, the harshest hit with the whole delicious thing is that this is no longer a confirmed delicious. But the thing that people aren't realizing though is that 1 in 3 games you are essentially still gonna sack into full power Pearly. So be aware of that. Then we have triple Pearly Pretty Memory, triple Street, triple Happy, 1 delicious. It left too soon. Way too soon. And then for the maybe less obvious ones, I'm playing one of the stray Pearly Street. I feel that now that we're no longer confirmed on a really big plump into Noir play, having the search from Street is more important than ever. This might be the difference between an unaffected Noir and a non-unaffected Noir, and it will also ensure that we have 1 or 2 extra draws whenever you have it. It's also another thing Pearly can hit because we basically lost 2 potential hits, so now we have more. And also, I am playing triple Leap, and so because of Leap you are still able to reach Noir more reliably and you have more targets for Pearly to hit. Beyond that, since we play 3 Leap, if we already opened one of them, Lily can sometimes search for Stray, and that's where you still get like the ceiling out of your deck. Before the ban list, I wasn't like too sure of maining 3 of this and stuff like that, but now I kind of think we're forced to. But going second, of course, we are going to be siding out 2 or even 3 of this. Then for the non-engine, I'm playing triple Ash, and of course, the rarities are not matched. You cannot unsee this. We have triple Mourner, triple Imperm, and 2 Tactics. Now, I'm aware we're technically entering like a board breaker format, but I found that Pearly is actually incredible at breaking boards anyway, and I really want to be drawing into hand traps. Beyond that, the fact that these are level 3 helps us make Baron. And yes, I know it sounds ridiculous. Baron? What? In Pearly? What the fuck are you doing? But, you know, we'll get to that. Also, in general, our going first board isn't always going to be as impressive anymore, and so being able to back it up with these and then just win the grind, because that's something Pearly can do well, is still pretty useful, whereas a board breaker will just sit like in your hand stuck. With that being said, I do still think triple Tactics Talents is very strong. It's probably like the strongest board breaker right now, I feel. Very hot take, and so I do still want to have access to it. But now for the spice, the Chaos Angel engine. Again, I haven't seen this before, but maybe someone has, so let me know if you did. I'm playing triple Danger Nessie, 1 Jackalope, 1 Bigfoot, and then 1 Shaddoll Beast. I'll start with the Shaddoll Beast. It's just the best discard outlet. It will draw you a card. It will be able to chain block. It can be done in draw phase and so forth. It's just the best one by far. But it is a hard brick. This thing, if that's stuck in your hand, it's just sitting there and you need to be able to discard it to do anything. So if you have like this and hand traps, you're just kind of crying. However, for the more interesting part here, the dangers. What is the thinking here? What are we doing? Basically, dangers are a discard engine because Nessie will search Jackalope. This means that kind of like the Brow Snow interaction, you have 1 refunded discard already. After that, you will discard the Jackalope with one of your Pearly spells to special summon the Bigfoot. Why are we doing this? Chaos Angel right here says 1 tuner and 1 plus non-tuner light or dark monsters. And beyond that, you can also use a light or dark as a tuner. What does this mean? It means that if you have a Bigfoot, a Pearly, and then Pearly or Lily, one of these 2, you can make the Chaos Angel just like that. Now you're thinking, what? Why? Why are you committing so many of these bodies into this? Let me explain. Usually, when you do the Pearly combo, you're gonna have 3 Pearly type of cards on your board. You noticed usually the boards they ended on was like they had 1 plump that would turn into a noir, or in this case it might be another monster, and they had 2 more bodies that they then would overlay into Ensemble Robin or the Recital Starling that can then search a DD Crow, or into the Princess Sprite. But overall, very consistently, it was always just 3 Pearly bodies, 1 to be the big tower, and then 2 overlaying for an Xyz that gives you value. This time, I felt we needed something more unfair than a Princess Sprite or a Recital Starling, because, well, our main engine kind of got weakened. So why not just incorporate a discard engine that then turns those 2 weak bodies that normally make your board slightly better into like just this unfair tower on top of your other thing. So when you reach Noir, you now have 2 very hard to out towers. And when you don't reach Noir, at least your board has like 1 really unfair tower. So essentially, you can do Pearly combo and then randomly still make a Chaos Angel. Now, of course, these cards are also just great in general because they are still just free discards, and going second dangers also help you make boards. More importantly, on top of that though, these can also be used to out floodgates or like weird things on the board. Your Nessie can always just instantly search your Bigfoot, and then your Bigfoot can be discarded and then just pop something on the field. Even more importantly though, these free bodies that you're generating can also be used to link summon. I know that sounds ridiculous, but yes, I am in fact also playing links. I'm very afraid of dimensional barrier. I don't like when decks are like going ham on just one summoning mechanic. Of course, usually you are going to be using the Xyzes. This is what the deck is the best at. But sometimes you're like, hey, did you see this link coming? Did you see this synchro coming? Don't forget, you can always Nessie get Jackalope, Jackalope, special summon defense Nessie, and then a hand trap plus Nessie is also Baron. I've straight up just done OTKs with like access code Baron rather than the Pearlies, because these Pearlies are still just very good extenders as well. Again, usually you're gonna want to Xyz summon and so forth. That's what this deck is like best at, but I figured just trying different avenues, because the ban list has hit us very harshly, was worth it. Especially because if you don't get access to Delicious, it's very hard to OTK with Happy now. The thing that really made Happy OTK so reliably is the fact that the Delicious also kept making the Happy bigger. So now that that's no longer the case, randomly just putting an access code or a Baron or something along those lines on the board is gonna help us OTK. Beyond that, what is also very interesting about these cards is that it's the only discard engine that doesn't brick by itself. If people are playing these big discard engines like Rainbow Bridges, Shaddolls, Dark Worlds, all of these cards, if you don't have a way to get them out of your hand and start playing that way, they're just stuck. They're just awful. Now, it's rare, of course, but those bricks do happen when you play a big discard engine. However, these cards can actually just activate the danger effect, try to get stuff out of your hand, draw into new answers. And hey, maybe you might then be able to like normal summon a hand trap and just go Nessie plus hand trap into Baron and then start playing. Of course, it's like more of a niche thing, but it's still something to keep in mind when you're trying to play with these cards in this deck. So this is kind of like the spice right now for me. Again, it might not be the final build that people settle on. That's totally fine. This is just something I'm trying. Again, we were dealt a very bad hand with Pearly, and so now we just gotta try to make the best of it. So then for the extra, we have 2 Noir, 2 Plum, 2 Happiness, 1 Beauty. Still thinking a little bit about the ratios. Like, are we reaching Plum often enough to play 2 now? I don't know. Is 1 Beauty enough? I'm really not sure. Are we putting up Noirs enough? These are just questions I'm still having, still trying to figure out and optimize. But so far, I'm liking this. And since we are going second, usually gonna be able to like OTK pretty nicely, especially if you can like sack into a Delicious. I do think the 2 Happiness is pretty important right now. Then I'm playing 2 Synchros, Chaos Angel and Baron. These are really the 2 that we're gonna be making most reliably. Chaos Angel is just free in this deck. Like, if you open Danger Nessie or Danger Jackalope plus a way to play Pearly, you will have a Chaos Angel on your board, which is really good, because the Nessie can go for Jackalope and Jackalope can go for Bigfoot, and if you just open Jackalope, you can instantly go for Bigfoot. So that's how that works. So Chaos Angel, very easy to make in this deck, and a lot of people, of course, don't see it coming. And then Baron, the only way to make this is basically if Nessie is specialed out, which can be either with its effect or with Jackalope, and then normal summon a hand trap. This isn't coming up super often, so if you notice you're playing and you're like, I'm not really liking the Baron, you can cut this 1 Baron for a second Zeus, because this list of mine right now doesn't play 2 Zeus, and that might be like the one thing where you're kind of afraid. Then for the links, I'm only playing 1 Dark and 1 Access Code. I at one point tried to play Lina in this deck as well for the mirror, but now, of course, I'm no longer like that afraid of the mirror. I don't think many people will be on the deck, but if somehow Pearly becomes like super popular, being able to go into Lina with like a Pearly and something else, and then stealing your opponent's Pearly and then activating its effect because it's not once per turn, that sounds crazy to me. But yeah, Dark, just the most common attribute, and also we have the Dangers and Purrely, so it's like the one we can make the most reliably. Then you can just randomly link climb, get an access code, and that might, you know, get you to actually being able to OTK. Can also out annoying things, and of course, we can finally also play under D barrier. We have synchros, we have links. Is it ideal? Of course not, but if your opponent has full combo plus a floodgate like D barrier, you are always losing anyway. And then for the Zeus package, I have one Fuko. This is, I feel like, the easiest way to Zeus if your opponent has something in defense, because like if you can reach Fuko, you are reaching Zeus. Then we have Slacker Magician. This is the easiest way if they don't make it easy for us, let's say. This is the one that's most reliable. Also shout out to my friend Dennis, who kept like telling me, play Slacker, play Slacker, play Slacker. I'm like, fine, I'll play Slacker. Then we have a one Downerd to make the Zeus bigger, and then one Zeus. Again, this is like the final thing where I'm like kind of iffy. I would like to play the second Zeus. So the one slot that could take that up is either one of these if you're feeling brave, or, you know, one of the double Pearlies that you might not be thinking is like worth it anymore with only one Delicious, or probably the Baron if you find that that's not coming up often enough. Then for the side deck, we have triple Kurikara. I still just want to respect a Rise Heart basically, and also it's level 1, so it's great at breaking boards. Now I do think some people are overvaluing this card. Some people are going like, wow, it breaks any board and blah blah blah. It only breaks boards once you have baited the negation or the disruption from your opponent. And the big issue with that is that this deck is actually going super -2 Betos. Like, you activate a spell and then you discard a card and then you summon a Lily, and if they then have like a negate and pop type of effect on that Pearly, you now wasted 2 cards to bait the thing, to then only be able to Kurikara. So like, don't just assume, oh, Kurikara breaks every board. A lot of people are coping on this card. It's just that in this deck in particular, and if you need an out to a Rise Heart, it is of course a very good card. You know, in level 1 and so forth, it's extra good in here specifically. Also, it's Fairy, which comes up a lot. Then I'm playing 3 cards for back row removal, 2 Lightning Storm, 1 Duster. But again, this deck is quite good into back row because you are reaching Zeus very reliably, and you also have the big for floodgates now, which makes it even better. Then I'm playing triple Bestials, 1 Druis Worm and 2 Magnamut. I'm still trying to respect essentially Branded and Matmech. Being able to just, you know, activate this on one of those important Matmech cards is really good. And of course, to get the Gimmick Puppet away, because with Expulsion gone, they can no longer take it from Banish. That is super good as well, of course. Then I'm playing 2 Bell and 1 Callby. Basically, these 3 also go in against Branded and against Matmech. Callby is basically a Bestial at that point, but the great thing about a Callby is that it doesn't get stopped by Mercourier in Branded. Overall, spells are just better than monsters when trying to disrupt opponents. And of course, Bell is also really good into Labyrinth. So if you're thinking, I don't really care about Branded and Matmech, I want to have even more hate for Labyrinth, then you can play triple Bell instead. And then finally, for going first, triple Summon Limit. Of course, it's very hard for our opponents to be able to play under this card, especially if they also had to out like a Chaos Angel. And we can usually do some things already with only 2 summons. We can go like Pearly, and then add a Pretty Memory to it, and now we have a free Imperm in 2 summons, something like that. We can also just go Pearly, add a Happy to it, and now we can like attack a lot with the Happy, even though again that's just the 2 summons. So this deck does work under Summon Limit pretty well, at least better than other decks. And since we then get extra turns, which is amazing because this deck has an amazing grind with My Friend and the Sleepy Memories just drawing us cards, the deck plays very well under this. So this is my current Pearly Chaos deck, I guess. I hope you found this very interesting. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Maybe you tried this out yourself. Maybe there's some things you dislike, but some things you do like. Again, it's still a time for experimentation with Pearly to try and get the most out of it in these very dire times. If you still need a beautiful playmat, go to zerodamagegaming.com and use the code Solemn for a discount. There's also beautiful deck boxes, and I will see you soon. Ciao.